Hi there, welcome everybody. Excited to be doing another one of these with you. So, hi everyone, welcome. If you don't know me already, I'm Maya Sharfi. I run Build Yourself, which is a coaching, training, and empowerment company that works with mid-career women in design, tech, and innovation. We work with women to help them move from just doing the work to setting the agenda, a big equity focus, and also helping women be able to get into positions where they can influence the game, where they can change the game. Waiting for my guest to join, and I'm so excited for her to come today. So all week long, I have been hosting conversations on dealing with uncertainty in these times, right? It's like we don't even know what's coming, and that's incredibly hard. It's incredibly hard to think through, where do you go in your career? How do you maintain? How do you make it through this moment? And what I'm really excited about my guest today is that there are all kinds of strange opportunities in a crisis. There are opportunities to learn how to be there for other people, to serve other people, to lead other people. Many of the women who I work with are now in senior leadership positions, and it's the first time that they're actually leading in those positions, leading people through a crisis. So learning how to do that. And really excited to introduce you to my guest, who should be on in just a moment. Because I really want her to give you a look under the hood of how to do that, how she does that in her company, and how she systematized it. So, hey, great to see everyone. Give a little wave or say hi in the chat box. Let us know why you're here. Let us know if this is your first of the uncertainty conversations that we've had. And if not, which other ones you joined. Hey, nice to see y'all. Welcome. Okay, so I am waiting for, oh, there we go. Okay. Okay, great. Hi, Atyia, how are you?
Hello.
Hey, great to see you.
Good to see you too. How are you, my dear?
Doing great. Yeah, just excited to get people to get to know you, and I've done a little bit of pre-introduction, so I'll recap and do it quickly. But I'm really excited for you all to get to meet Dr. Martin, Dr. Atyia Martin. So Dr. Martin runs. Actually, I'm just going to call you Atyia, but she is a doctor, and she has done some incredible things. And we won't focus on this today, but she led, she was the chief resiliency officer for the city of Boston before founding All Aces Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Education Company. She works with companies, she actually has trainings out there that help companies and organizations institutionalize equity in a much deeper way. We're not going to even get to talk about that today, so if you think that that's super interesting, follow her and you'll get to learn more. Follow All Aces and you'll get to learn more. But why I wanted to bring her to you today is that we're in, as I mentioned earlier, this very uncertain time. And long before this time started, I've been such a fan of Atyia's approach to culture and how to support people within the culture of her company, and it flows outwards with all the companies that she works with. So I wanted her, she gave me a chance to look under the hood, and I was like, oh my gosh, I quit my job and just like work with you guys, you're amazing. And I wanted you to get a chance to see that, because if you are newly in a leadership position, if you're running a team, if this is your first crisis you've gone through, if this is the first of this sort of crisis you've gone through, which it probably is, there are practices that can help you take care of the people who you lead and you work with. So just without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Tia to talk through what those practices are and how they get operationalized in her company.
Thank you so much. So, thank you everyone for joining. It's an absolute pleasure to be here with this amazing human being who has little googly eyes on her shirt. I see you. Um, um, so this idea of what we should be doing in our organizations to support people through these really difficult times. And so I think the number one thing is to figure out what it means to take care of yourself, right? Like you as a leader can't take care of other people if you haven't figured out what that means for yourself. And creating the space for people in our organizations to explore what that means for them too. We kind of make this assumption, like when you tell people, oh, you know, you need to practice self-care, that everybody knows what that means and what it means for them as an individual. There is no cookie cutter way to practice self-care. And so it takes practice, it takes experimentation in our organizations. And when people are struggling, like we are right now through COVID-19, and we're trying to support them, you know, our own mental health, our own situation impacts how we're able to then help other people, or make things worse sometimes. Um, the other piece is being honest, right? So I think there's a lot of times our human tendency is not to tell the truth. Like that is our human tendency. Like we don't want to admit when we're wrong. We don't want to admit when we don't know something. We don't like to be wrong, and it's partially it's part human, part culture, right? And so if our culture is then reinforcing that natural tendency we have, then we create environments where people are afraid to admit when they don't know something. And if people can't admit they don't know something, then that means we waste a lot of time, energy, money, resources. And so being able to help people navigate through that piece is super important. The other thing I'll say is when during crisis situations, our brain basically sinks to our feet, and we are not our best self. So the default is that we're not our best self. And there's a concept that's been really helpful for me called bounded rationality. It's something we also share with our clients and that we talk a lot about in practice at all ACEs, which is the fact that we as human beings are less likely to be rational, less likely to be rationalized with when we're making decisions because of three different things. One is the time we have to make the decisions. The second reason is the complexity of the decision we have to make. And then the third thing is the cognitive limitations we have: tired, stress, implicit bias, all of the things that impact how we navigate and interact with each other, and even interact with ourselves and how we think about ourselves. And so because of those things, not only do we not make rational decisions, we tend to make the easiest decision as opposed to the most optimal, which is why it's so hard for us to embed racial equity during these times in real life in our communities, but also like what's happening in our organizations. So I think, you know, for me, those are the like big picture key things, and I know we're going to go into a bit more detail as we go through
and just be
those things.
yeah, no, I think and I'm sure folks watching have kind of seen some of that in action, even down to the level of you know, like sometimes we talk about the idea of the diversity box being separate from the like doing your job box. So, and one of the things Atyia and I both share is that, like, no, you got the diversity box can't live separately. It needs to live in the regular box. But what I want us to focus on here, especially because we've got a really short amount of time, and I want people to walk out with something that they can do differently today, is I am so enamored by I think it's called connected care element of the way that all ACEs run. So even down to the level of how you guys start every meeting. So can you walk us through what that looks like?
Absolutely. So a more granular example of what I was saying before is this value we have called collective care. And collective care is really about acknowledging that self-care by itself isn't enough, right? That in fact our ability to be healthy, and which also connects to productivity and all of these pieces, is tied to our relationship with other people, our ability to take care of each other, and our ability to take care of ourselves. And that organizations are oftentimes barriers to people being able to take care of themselves. So this practicing this value means that we start every meeting with a check-in. How's everyone doing? What did you do this weekend? Or any challenges that you're facing? And not just as it relates to work, but as it relates to just real life. And the layers of benefits of that quickly are, number one, you get to know each other, right? And the stronger your relationships are as a team, the more forgiving we are of mistakes that we each other make, the less likely we are to create narratives about why someone did something and take something that really wasn't that significant and make it a molehill.
Yeah.
I mean, transitioning from a molehill to a mountain. There we go. That's how you really say it.
Yeah.
The other thing we do is we have 3 times a year, and sometimes a little bit more depending on how stressful the year was. But we have 3 times a year where we take 2 to 3 weeks off from scheduling any major commitments to clients so that people can take time off, so that people can work on strategic projects that they've just been dying to work on, but we just haven't had time because of the day-to-day work, or to work on passion projects, just things that no matter how small or big or whatever it is that have been on their mind that they really wanted to experiment with for the organization. And so we schedule those out each year so that everyone knows like when those timeframes are. And it's been a really important part of our other value of client care. So we then practice that with our clients. So when we meet with clients, we're checking in. We don't just jump into, business. And what we're trying to do is model what it means to really care about people as people first, and then the work. And that when you do that, you actually get better results on the work side as well. And people are just happier to be there, which is what people are looking for. Not just happiness, but to know that someone cares about them, to be fully developed, and to know that the organization really sees them as a full human being and not just a human doer, right? A human resource.
Yeah.
So I'll stop there.
No, I mean, I if anyone's just like their brain is exploding with like kittens and glitter, that's how I felt when I first heard this. I thought it was incredible. And I mean, okay, so first of all, stopping, it sounds a little crazy that stopping to ask how are you as a human and having that be part of your culture at every meeting is notable. But,
yeah.
I have clients who are in these new leadership roles, and they are, they're in positions where the way business has been done is that you keep it about the business, and it's based off of an idea that your work self is one part of you, and then you've left your wife and kids at home in the suburbs that you commuted in on the streetcar or whatever, and and I think that it doesn't work for a lot of people. A lot of us we're not one person here and one person there, and so it's like it's a little radical act.
And and all, I think the other pieces you that you start to get at that I want to kind of reinforce, which is the whole person, right? Like we spend most of our time at work, and how, when you just think about it kind of logically, how ridiculous is it that you're supposed to pretend that you have to squeeze into these teeny tiny boxes of expectations for most of your day, for most of your week, for most of our lives, right? So organizations play a big role in how we think we have to adjust ourselves to conform, right? And if an organization isn't intentionally working on these things, inevitably, like, you just see this. You can walk into any organization and you can feel it in the air when it's that kind of organization where people are overworked, underappreciated, and it's not even about the money. It's I am not appreciated. So all the things we can do to help reinforce that for employees, for people we're engaging with, it all matters.
And I don't believe that you can change a culture on your own, but I do believe that with the right allies, you can be a catalytic force in a culture. So there's one question that sometimes the women I work with face, which is, should I stay here? Like, is it possible for me to thrive here? And then
Mm-hmm.
there's places that are clearly like get out, and then there's places that are like this is clearly a great place. I do also think that there are places in the middle, and part of how you can test out whether you can be part of the change is one, are there allies that you can band together with, and number two, what happens when you start to model that behavior the way that you're doing it with your clients, and you will feel imposter syndrome. It won't always feel like, again, glitter and kittens, but I do think that a lot of women and men too, but I think a lot of women can actually be part of that catalytic change in culture.
Yeah, I think one of the things that conformity has done to us um, is it limits the opportunities we see for action in the spaces we're in, right? So it means that we are when we walk into spaces, like, we only see the immediate role we play in an organization as our opportunity to like do anything, when in fact the possibilities are actually much broader than that. But it takes reframing how we think about our own power and our ability. So, like, modeling certain things is a form of power. Committing to certain values and living into those values when you walk into every space that you're in is actually part of that power, right? And it makes it harder for anyone to take anything away from you in terms of your identity, right? Like, you are not your job. And so when we are able to do those things, we actually can hold on to all of who we are and not just different roles we play or groups we belong to.
Yeah, yeah. So, okay, a couple invitations for you if you're watching this. Number one,
Okay.
if you are interested in Dr. Martin and her team and their approach, go check them out. Go to allacesinc.com. They are amazing to work with, and it's possible that if your office is in a place where you can work on a couple of foundation building things, they're great to connect with and to see what they do. They also have online learning that you can train yourself. You as an organization can train yourselves, right? This is a great thing to spend your time on right now, especially if maybe you're finding that maybe you've been furloughed, maybe your office is finding itself with a little bit more time on its hands. um, if you are finding yourself with a little bit more time on your hands as an individual, and you're finding that you want to be thinking about who you want to be in your career, and you want to be moving into a place that includes more influence, more like answering the call, whatever that looks like for you, integrating who you are uniquely into what you do, then check me out. I'm a career and business coach, and you can check out my next level program and my whole philosophy. All my links are on my bio, and I direct you to the next level program to figure that out. So yeah, thank you so much, Dr. Martin and Atyia, for being here. Thanks for introducing us to just these little ways that we could help other people and ourselves through this time.
Thank you. I appreciate you, and keep up the amazing work. I see you out here working hard. Thank you.
Oh, thanks. You too. All right. Bye.